Quick warning to anybody that's actually watching this video. If you're ever shaping up your mustache yourself, make sure that you line it up evenly. Take your time because I sort of messed up and now I have to start all over. My mustache grows fast, so that's not a big deal. But man, I've had a mustache all this time and now there's just nothing. I mean, obviously the hair is already growing back. But anyway, this is the top 5 best class ups for Modern Warfare 2. I know this is new viewers, you probably are like, what the heck am I looking at? But I just had to talk about that. Anyway, these 5 class setups are so useful and they'll be amazing to use in any situation where you're playing tryhard, where you're playing casual players, whatever. But we're going to start out with the Minibak. So the Minibak has 64 bullets to start out with, and this is an amazing setup with all the tuning that you need. So we're going to put on the X10 RR40 and increase the bullet velocity by 0.74 inches and the recoil smoothness increased by 0.50 ounces. This helps with sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming stability. We can move on to the Bach 9 279mm barrel and tune it to increase the damage range by 0.21 inches and then max out the weight negative 0.50 pounds for aim walking speed. Now, we increase the damage range, hipfire accuracy, and bullet velocity at the cost of aim down sight speed and hip recoil control. Not a big deal. We'll take care of that later on. Put on the FT TAC Elite stock and tune the weight to negative 0.77 ounces for aim down sight speed increase. This helps with the recoil control but reduces the aim down sight speed and crouch movement speed, so I wanted to compensate the aim down sight speed in any way that I could. Put on the true tack grip for the rear grip and then tune the sprint to fire speed to increase it just a little bit more. So I put it to 0.30 inches on the negative side, and then on the negative side for weight, put it to 0.74 ounces to increase aim down sight speed. So even though the pros were already sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed, I just wanted to max them out even more because the recoil was already on point. Just show you guys how useful this is. Like literally this thing has no recoil. The only downside is long range is probably going to be a little more complicated because of long range recoil, but close to mid range is practically no recoil and you have plenty of bullets to work with if you have a long range target. If you have a long range target, I suggest trying to get some burst fire shots off. That'll actually be quicker than trying to spray and pray, but you'll be able to spray and pray the short to mid range targets very easily. Next, we're moving on to the TAC 56, and this is a very mobile, useful build that will do plenty of damage and kill multiple enemies at once. So we're going to start off with the Harbinger D20, and we're going to tune it to increase the bullet velocity by 0.65 inches and the recoil smoothness by 0.77 ounces. Now the pros are sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and aim walking speed. So you guys got to keep that in mind, but I believe at the end it's all going to be worth it. We're going to put on the 17.5 Tundra Pro barrel, increase the damage range by 0.30 inches, and then increase the aim walking speed by 0.27 pounds negative. Now, the pros are damage range, hip fire accuracy, and bullet velocity at the cost of aim down sight speed and hip recoil control. We're next going to move on to the TV Cardinal stock, and this is one of the key players to actually make this as mobile as it actually is. We increase the aiming idle stability by 1.86 inches, and then we increase the aim down sight speed by negative 1.94 ounces. This already has good aim walking speed and sprint speed, so I wanted to make sure the aiming idle stability was still useful because it takes down aiming stability. Last but not least, we're actually going to move on to these two, which is the FSS combat grip and the 40 round mag. The FSS combat grip is actually the only thing that needs tuning. It increases the recoil control at the cost of aiming stability. We increase the sprint to fire speed by negative 0.20 inches and increase the recoil steadiness by 0.71 ounces. And then the 40 round mag, I mean, it just helps with the magazine ammo capacity. I wouldn't recommend 60 just because you would be considerably slower. And considering this is multiplayer, I think 40 is enough. I'll just show you guys how great this build is. This thing literally has no recoil despite everything that we actually put on there. Now here's the amazing thing. You also still have plenty of mobility, so if you're in a gunfight where you need to strafe, you can strafe and still get the job done, along with getting accurate shots. So in my opinion, this is the best build for the TAC 56, and if you do want to try it out, I think you would get great results. Next, we're moving on to the Cast-Off 74U, and this hybrid weapon is incredible. I would recommend anybody that wants to have an amazing gameplay experience on Modern Warfare 2 use this weapon. Now we're starting out with the Echoless 80, and we increase the sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming stability. Now we increase the bullet velocity by 0.52 inches and the recoil smoothness by 0.72 ounces. We're going to put on a Schläger Peck box. This helps with the aim down sight speed. And then the Otrasat stock helps with the aim walking speed and sprint speed at the cost of aiming stability. We increase the aiming idle stability by 0.08 inches just because it doesn't really help overall. So, I mean, I kind of only increased it to the point where it was noticeable. And then at that point, I didn't change it anymore. Put on the Demo X2 grip for recoil control and a reduction of aiming stability, and increase the sprint to fire speed by negative 0.25 inches, increase the recoil steadiness by 0.29 ounces. And then last but not least, we put on the 45 round mag. You can use the 20 round if you feel confident. It will help you with the movements aspects, but in my opinion, I think the 45 round mag is good enough. Plus, this basically moves like an SMG. So the overall end result is this amazing weapon that basically functions like an amazing SMG that also functions as an AR considering the range. The mobility is fantastic, and in my opinion, the recoil is just working well enough to where you're not going to get every long range engagement, but if you do have your accuracy on point, it should be able to get you mid-range and occasional long-range gunfights successfully. Next, we're moving on to the king of close range engagement, which is the Lachmann Sub. We're going to start out with the AVR T20 comp for the muzzle. This helps the horizontal and vertical recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming stability. We didn't change the length, but we increased the recoil stabilization by 0.23 ounces. You would think that I would actually want the gun kick control changed, but in my opinion, it didn't do as much as you would think. So I left it alone and put on the FTAC M Sub 12-inch. It increases the bullet velocity, damage range, recoil control, and hip fire accuracy at the cost of aim down sight speed, movement speed, and hip recoil control, which we're going to take later on and fix that. Now we're going to increase the damage range by 0.31 inches and increase the recoil steadiness by 0.19 pounds. And we're going to put on the LM stockless mod. This helps with the aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, movement speed, and hip recoil control at the cost of aiming recoil control, aiming stability, and flinch resistance. We then put on the Lachmann TCG-10, and this helps with the recoil control that we just lost at the cost of aiming stability. We increased the sprint to fire speed a little bit by negative 0.17 inches, and then we also increased the aim down sight speed by 0.03 ounces on the negative side. Last but not least, we put on the 40 round mag. And just show you guys how great this weapon actually is. We actually counteracted the recoil issue, which is fantastic. The only downside is this is not a champion at long range. So if you try to use this long range, you're going to have a hard time, as you guys see. You'd be better off trying to burst fire, but even then I wouldn't recommend it. I would leave it to the close range and mid-range engagements. You'll have a much better time. The long range engagements, you better just chalk that off and try to get much closer to take them off much faster. And last but not least, a fan favorite, we are using the M4, and the M4 is incredible. I actually didn't think a muzzle was necessary for this build, so we started out with a high tower 20-inch barrel and increased the damage range by 0.21 inches. We increased the recoil steadiness by 0.31 pounds. This helps with the bullet velocity, damage range, recoil control, and hip fire accuracy at the cost of aim down sight speed, movement speed, hip recoil control, and that's it. We're going to move on to the Schläger Peck box. This helps with aim down sight speed with no cons, so I highly recommend it. We're going to put on the Demo Precision Elite Factory tuning. For the stock, we're going to increase the tuning from 1.08 inches in length for aiming out of stability, and we're not going to change the weight. This helps with aiming stability and recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed, crouch movement speed, aim walking speed, and sprint speed. We're going to put on the X10 grip. This helps with sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed at the cost of recoil control. Now, we put the sprint to fire speed to negative 0.10 inches, and we increase the recoil steadiness by 0.23 ounces. And last but not least, we put on the 45 round mag. And just to show you guys how amazing this is with this build, it is fantastic. You would think this would actually have more recoil considering all the factors I listed, but this thing has 0 recoil, as you guys see. The targets basically stand no chance. Like, they get taken out so quick. Even at long range, it's not an issue. So if you guys want to use this build, I highly recommend it. You're going to take out your enemy extremely quickly, and you're going to have a whole lot of success.